Hello, 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 everyone. This is Nickquolette here, and I am so excited to be here early today, right? I know you all are saying, oh my gosh, she's on early. But if you saw my post on yesterday, I said I had to go on early because I have a very special guest all the way from London, England. And at this time, it's 6 o'clock p.m. So instead of having my show at 6:45 p.m. Central Standard Time, I am having it at 12 noon. So she wouldn't have to get up in the morning at 1:45 her time trying to do an interview. So I am so excited to have her on, and I'll get started in just a minute. But I just wanted to, of course, let you know who I am. I am Nickquolette Barrett, also known as the Get Higher Strategist, where I help you land the job of your dreams and create a career that rocks. And I not only help you land a job, I help you keep a job, turning you from a job applicant into a job candidate so you can soar as high as you want to go. So as I always ask you all to do, please share the broadcast with others, okay? Share the broadcast so others can get on, and if it's their lunchtime, they can get on and join us. And of course, if you are there, say hello. All right, and before I bring on my special guest, I am going to go over to do my little quick commercial, and then I will be right back. And I'm back. Yay. Okay. Let me see. I see some comments coming in. Hi, Anita Mendoza. Hi. Thank you so much for joining. Share the broadcast with all of your audience. I so appreciate you all the way from LinkedIn. Thank you so much for joining. Hi. Thank you so much. And I am going to bring on my guest, and then I will give a short introduction, and then I'll let her talk a little bit about herself. So I am going to add Miss Gina Gardiner to the broadcast. Oh, I'm so excited. Hi. Now, this month is all about leadership. So I am so excited to have her on. So our theme is leadership, bringing out the leader in you. So every week this month, I will be focusing on a different topic about leadership. And my special guest, Gina Gardiner, is here all the way from London, England, and she's all about leadership. She has an extensive experience in leadership, and our topic on today is all about enlightened leadership. So I am going to hand it over to Gina so she can tell us a little bit about who she is before we get started with this awesome interview.
Hello there, and thank you very much for having me on the show. I'm really excited to be here. I started off life in education. I was a teacher, and then I became a principal, and I was a principal for just over 20 years, nearly 21. And for the most part, I ran my school from a wheelchair. And the gift in that was that I had to find a different way of empowering my staff to be the leading professional within their classrooms or within the office or wherever, and to take radical responsibility for their own performance and a shared responsibility for the performance of the team. It was incredibly successful. We were on the best 100 schools in England list twice during my tenure, which I'm very proud.
Yes.
I left being a principal in 2004, and I started initially to work with corporates. And I made the Well, I thought that leadership was the same, didn't matter what the type of company was. And so I sent myself off, I created a research project across industry to look at what were the issues facing emerging leaders. You know, how do you become a leader? You might be a great salesperson or a great technician, but then you're given people to lead, and it's a very different skill set.
Oh, yes.
And then how did you move from being a middle rank leader to being a senior leader and the most senior decision maker. And what were the issues facing them? And in fact, they were the same as they were in education. So I wrote my first couple of books and I started to work in corporates. And then the recession hit in 2009 and corporate work dried up. They cut their development budget. And so I started to work with smaller businesses. My introduction had come because I was doing work with Essex University in their business school. And I'd go and work with people and then I'd be invited back for things that could have been avoided. And I still do that today. But I became more and more concerned about the number of people who were either suffering because they were on the receiving end of poor leadership, or they were leaders struggling to manage their team, and it felt like herding cats. So, and I felt this very strong mission that I needed to impact on more people. And so I set up Genuinely You, and that's online work. And it's very much about finding the leader in you and then leadership in terms of leading other people. But it has to start with you.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm just getting chills because you touched on just in your introduction so many things, because people don't understand that although they have the technical capabilities, that they're not necessarily leaders. And because we identify them because they're good in their job, that they have to know how to lead leaders. And it's a total different ball game. It's not necessarily so, because leading people takes a whole different skill set in addition to your technical aspect. And you may be good at your technical job day to day, but you're horrible with leading people because, for one, you don't like it because that will come through, right? And then you're given this task of trying to teach and train. It's like those are other skill sets I don't necessarily have or really don't want to do. And so unfortunately, the receivers are on the end of getting poor leadership and they're upset at the actual leader, but sometimes leadership is forced on a person through corporate, regardless of if they have the desire or real people skill set in order to lead others. But I like that you said it starts with them. And I am just so elated about that. If you all see, she's an author and national TV commentator, a politics and profit show with Rick Amato at Genuinely You. Please make sure you follow her on that. So when you're talking about the actual leadership, let me see. So tell me a little bit what led, I guess you did tell me about what led into it, but you also said that you wrote a couple of books as well.
I've written a number of books. My first two were very much to give me credibility, if you like, in the business world. Because when I left being a principal in 2004, even though I had a budget of $1.5 million and I employed almost 100 people, there was the view out in the business world that actually education was different to business. And although the widgets are different, you know, what we produced was different, it was effectively running a business. And so I wanted to, first of all, I suppose, prove to myself that the issues were the same. And then I wrote the first two books, which are Kickstart Your Career. And that's for people who are moving from the world of education into the world of work. And it's how do you become a consummate professional quickly? Because you can come out of college or university and be very good at your subject, but do you know how to be a good member of staff? Do you know how to take responsibility for yourself? You know, because there are people who are very cocky and think they know it all, and there are people who are very needy and are constantly asking for reassurance. And my experience is that people tend to polarize. There are very few who arrive balanced in the middle. And so Kickstart was very much around helping people going into the world of work for the first time. And then the other book, which was the sister book, which is How to Manage the Staff, was a distillation of all of the strategies that I'd used in school. And it's very much a jargon-free, you know, how do you delegate effectively? How do you set up a vision? It's the how-to book. The next book, Chariots on Fire, an allusion to my wheelchair, if you like, was a bit of my story and also the strategies that I use to live a life of positive advantage. And then my thinking had moved on. And so I wrote the latest book, Thriving, Not Surviving. Actually, it's the latest one book, Thriving, Not Surviving. And that's a book which distills, no matter whether I'm working with people as an individual or as a couple or as a team or as a leader or an organization, we follow the 5 secret pathways, because that gives you a holistic view of developing yourself as a person and as a leader.
Oh my, that is so powerful. And especially I love the fact that you're saying that some people are polarized on different spectrums. As being in leadership for over 19 years now in corporate America, I've had the very independent type of direct reports, and then I've had the very needy, and I've also unfortunately had a few of the cocky, I know it all type of employees. And then you have to basically differentiate how you're dealing with them as well, because although you are a leader, you have various, I guess, personalities, skill sets, backgrounds, and then you have to be able to engage all of them in order to achieve the goals. So, and that's so interesting, especially when you talk about your book, Thriving and not just Surviving, because sometimes we just are just barely hanging on and, just trying to get through the day. It's like, oh, not another issue. But it's not about that. It's really particular to you, but something that you have to work on inside of you in order for you to get to that thrive. And I like the fact that you have the 5 steps to be able to help people to see that and do that. Now, when we talk about the enlightened leadership, if we're thinking about what's going on now with all of the unfortunate layoffs and the COVID and everything that's going on, even when we were thinking about the Black Lives Matter movement, why is enlightened leadership so important today, right now, in this moment?
I don't think it's ever been more critical than it is right now.
Yes.
And I think that's for a number of reasons. So for me, enlightened leadership is, first and foremost, you leave your ego at home in bed under your pillow with your pajamas or your nightie. Enlightened leaders recognize that stepping into your own authentic, genuine power is not about diminishing somebody else. Yes. But when you are truly in your own power, you see the potential in others and you nurture that. Because enlightened leaders recognize that if we're going to thrive moving forward, and when I believe we're moving into an age of greater consciousness, where the need for authenticity, integrity, compassion, and the courage to do what's right has never been more needed. And I think enlightened leaders are those who actually want to make a positive difference. They want to leave a living legacy, because in reality, every word we speak and the way in which we speak it, every action we take or not, and the way in which we do it, leaves a living legacy. And so for me, enlightened leadership, this is a time when we need people to really step up. I can't remember the name of the guy who said it, but he said the only thing that is required for evil to persist is for good men to keep silent. And I just alter that to good people. And I think that if you look at what's going on, the interesting thing is that more millionaires are made during times of depression and difficulty than are ever made in boom. And I'm not talking about profiteers. I'm talking about those people who look for and see the limitless possibilities that there are out there. And those enlightened leaders recognize that you can't do it on your own. Yes. That you need other people to, and their skills, their enthusiasms, their motivation, their experience. And when you've got self-organizing, self-actualizing teams, which doesn't mean you just give them a job and let them go, but when you manage those and lead those effectively, then real magic happens. Because if you think about yourself, you've got your IQ, you've got your education, you've got your level of emotional intelligence, you have your enthusiasms and your motivation. But if you've got 5 staff, multiply that by 5. If you've got 100 staff, multiply it by 100, and so on. And that's a resource that, as an enlightened leader, if you are truly, truly ready to take responsibility for you, 100% responsibility, and you encourage other people to do the same, and they're going to do it because they see you model it and it's expected, then just think what you can achieve. And, radical responsibility is not just about leadership in work. If you think about it in your personal life, how many times have you heard people say, he made me angry, or she made me so unhappy? If you hand the responsibility for your emotional well-being, your physical well-being, your intellectual well-being, your spiritual well-being over to other people, you have to put up with what they give you, and it might not be what you want. So take responsibility for your own happiness, for your own success. Because, how many people do you know that they either believe that they'll fail so they don't try, or they are frightened of succeeding, so as soon as things start to get really good, they sabotage.
Yep, I've seen that.
Ultimately, becoming an enlightened leader means that you lead yourself first. So if I can give you an example, one of the businesses I work with is a dental lab. Okay, they make implants and crowns. And when I first started working with them, they made about £500,000 worth of dental implants a year. They were on piecework. They worked very long hours. And the boss of the business was run ragged. And he was run ragged because he was the fount of all knowledge. Is this good enough? What about this? What shall I do about this? And he was a bit taken aback when I said to him, so just think about what you're doing that feeds that. Because his view was it was the staff. In reality, it wasn't his staff. It was because he didn't have a learning environment. People were concerned that if they didn't do it right, they'd get shouted at. And so they stopped thinking for themselves. But by working on him, not only did he completely reorganize the business so people were on salaries, that they worked in teams, that Thursday's learning day, that everybody, no matter what their status in the company, their job was to teach other people within the company what they did.
How powerful.
And within a very short space of time, instead of starting work at 6 and finishing at 8, they were starting work at 8 and finishing at 5 or 6 and going to the pub at 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon.
Nice.
And making £890,000 worth of teeth the last year. Same number of people, fewer hours, less aggravation, better relationships. And the boss is enjoying life because when somebody says, what do you think? He says, well, actually, what do you think?
Yeah.
And so the whole thing has changed. Why? Not because he's got different staff, but because he's become a much more enlightened leader.
And that is so powerful. And I just think about corporations who don't take that time to learn, and being able to learn what enlightened leadership means will allow those corporations to flourish even more. And when I think about what's going on with all of the biases and all this kind of stuff, because people really don't value, I guess, others' opinions and seeing how they can actually advance if we do it all together. And it's no big I's or little U's. The best leaders are the ones who can engage others to go forward, right? And then when you see the results, it's just a magnificent. That is an awesome story to be able to see that all he had to do is to look inward. And that's what I'm hearing. Looking inward in order for him to project outward that he is now not just, I guess, a boss, because that sounds like he was more of a boss that happens to have the leadership title. And there's a big difference from being a boss and also being an actual, and that's what people don't understand.
That's the problem for many business owners. You know, entrepreneurs whose business has grown, they start off and they're good at the widgets, but as the business grows and they employ more and more people, then what they don't do is look to become the leader, to have that understanding. And many people that I come across, they're frightened to employ people who are better than them.
Oh my God. Say that again. Oh, say that one more time, Gina. Say that one more time. Oh my gosh.
To employ people who are better than them. So what you end up with is you can't be great at everything. Nobody can. And so you end up with mediocre, because instead of seeing that your role as leader is to, first of all, find and encourage and nurture and grow the right people. And, you know, one of the reasons my school was so successful is I wanted the very best. You know, technology is not my thing, but I wanted the best technology, the best maths, the best English. My job was to bring the best out in them and to incorporate them as a team.
Yes.
And also, we succeeded. Now, I've worked these same principles in businesses as far ranging as retail, manufacturing, insurance, finance, health, local government, entertainment, hotels, PR. It doesn't matter what the widgets are. These principles, and they don't only work for work, because what people then start to say is, do you know, my relationships at home are better. My relationships with my kids are better. That I am happier. That I'm enjoying life. I've got a real sense of purpose, because enlightened leadership is for life. It is not just about, yes, you will make your business more productive and more profitable, but actually you'll make your life more enriched and more joyous, because you will be living a better, more loving life, loving to yourself. And for me, you know, people think about love being pink and fluffy. You know, you can't talk about love and business because, you know, well, that's a bit wiki-woo. But if you love somebody unconditionally, it doesn't mean that you accept rubbish.
Yes.
If you love someone and you truly love them, and you kind of, in the sense of business, I'm talking about care. In the family, I'm talking about, you know, true love. But if you do have that, you're coming from a place of love, then you have very high standards, and you expect those high standards. But because people know that you care about them and that you're really invested in them, then they will do their best. Exactly. And one of the nicest compliments I ever had was when a young member of staff had got promotion, came to me to say, I want to say thank you, because you tell me when it's not good enough, but in a way that makes me want to be better.
Yeah.
It doesn't beat me down. It doesn't make me feel small. It makes me feel I can do better, and I want to do better. And for me, that's the real heart of being an enlightened leader. People want to be part of what you're trying to do, your vision. They understand your why, and they want to be part of that. But if you don't know what your why is, don't expect other people to. Because how can you communicate that?
That is amazing. Now, Gina, let me ask you this. Now, I love the fact that you wanted the best around you and you work with them in order for them to see their value to promote. What kind of advice would you give to a leader who understands the power of having those around them to make them a stronger team or what have you, but then they hold on to them because they're risk losing their status as doing well, meaning they won't allow them to promote, won't allow them to go to another department because I need you. What would you say to that type of leader? Because there are those out there that do that as well.
They come from a place of lack. They come from a place of fear. My success is tied to that particular person. But if you have a situation where that what you're holding on to is that I've got a learning organization. I've got an organization which is all about ongoing development of potential. You don't just have one or two that you want to hold on, because you're always bringing people up to replace them. And the new people coming in, they question and they challenge. So everybody's thinking moves on. And if you are truly enlightened, you will do everything in your power to facilitate and enable people to grow. And when your container, if you like, is no longer big enough for them, then you encourage them to fly and know that sometimes they come back later on having gained even more experience. You know, when I was a head teacher, a principal, my budget was terrible. It's one of the reasons I went out and worked with the National College of Leadership, and I worked for the government as an advisor to bring a budget into school. In the UK, there are only 3 times a year that teachers can actually resign. So there's cut-off points: 28th of February, 31st of May, and the 30th of October. 31st of October. How many days in October? I've forgotten. 30 days. I've said 31st of October. And I dread that knock on the door, or that, Gina, can I have a word? Because you knew they were going to say they're going to go. And we worked very hard with our new teachers in that first 3 years. And so if they went for promotion, they'd always get it. So I had 5 teachers in 1 week come and say, we've got an interview for a promotion. And so what I said to them is, look, I can't offer you any money, but I'll offer you development, and go and have a look round, go and have a think about whether the promotion and the money that promotion is going to give you, whether they will give you the same development opportunities as me. If you decide to stay, I promise that I will provide you with the very best development so you can go for promotion, not for this stage, but the next one. All 5 stayed. Of those 5, 4 became principals, 1 became a deputy.
Wow.
Okay.
And you know what? They trusted you and your process in getting them. And I love that, because, you know, a mindset also goes to, that's a negotiation tactic, because when you're going in asking your boss for a raise, and then they just say no, people will just get mad and then they want to quit and start looking for another job. But what if you can negotiate something like that? Or even the leaders can even present something like, well, because I don't have the budget, and be honest with them and tell them that. But what if I can do X, Y, and Z for you? And then you will still get that experience that you are desiring to go beyond, because they now have outgrown that environment. Because sometimes I'd say, the job that I'm doing, I can do it with my eyes closed. I've been doing it for so long. It's like, it's not a challenge. So what do you do for that person to allow them to stretch themselves? I love that you were able to see into them and also let them know that there's still opportunity for you to grow, even though sometimes it's just not tied to the money.
Interestingly, the research shows that money is not the top motivator. It's 3rd or 4th in the list. What comes over time and time again, the top motivator is that people feel valued and that they have an opportunity to grow. Now, of course, I offered them that, but then the caveat is you've got to deliver. It's no good just using the words and then not delivering. But the knock-on effect was, I'd always used to do, before this happened, I had development for my very new teachers and for my senior teachers. So this was the band who'd been teaching for 3 years and who were ready for the next step. So we started, and their names, they called, so the first group was people just coming out of their probationary year. They called themselves the next step. And then this lot called themselves the next generation. I think there were Trekkies on the staff. And and then my middle managers came to me and said, look, they've all got this extra training and they've got that. What about us? And so they then requested that I set up extra development for them. Now, I need to put that into context, because this was at a time of great union action in education. And at that time, the union rules were 1 meeting a week, 1 staff meeting a week. And I said to them, I happily do it, but you've got to do it in your own time and recognize that I'm not forcing you to do it. You're doing it of your own free will. Everybody came along. Nobody chose not to. The only request was that there was always a bag of Maltesers on the table. Amazing what a bag of Maltesers can do.
Wow. How cute. I love it. Yes.
But over the years,
Yes.
people would move, and many of them were promoted in-house when somebody left to get promotion, because in the end, people left for promotion to have babies or to retire. They were the only reason they ever left. Yeah. And so if people were the right for the job and they were in-house, then they had an advantage because they knew how we operated. But I think one of the things that I think is important that I'm clear about, the appointment process started with the advert. And it was very clear about what sort of person I wanted. And quite frankly, I needed somebody who was ready to learn, who was self-motivated, who was going to be a great team member.
Yeah.
And unless it was for a very technical role, I was much more interested in the person than I was the qualifications.
Nice. Yeah.
So when they came, before the interview started, I would say to them, really pleased to have you here. But before we get started, this is a two-way process. We need to be the right place for you, as well as you being the right person for us. So let me just take you through a few things. And then if it doesn't fit and you want to go, I won't think anything less of you. But if you do have the interview and you do get the job, make no mistake, this is what we expect. So you've got to be a good team member. Okay? That means you've got to be generous of heart. You've got to want the team to do well. So we don't do ego here, okay? We don't do moods. So, no moods. If you've got something to say, this is about saying things that we respect one another here. You'll be expected to work really, really hard. But you'll also get lots of support. So if we were then appointed, and I can remember a few occasions with new teachers, it would be a Monday morning, they'd have had a heavy weekend and they'd come in in a bad mood, quietly take them to one side and say, I like that conversation we had.
You say it politely.
You don't do moods here.
Right.
So next time you want to have a heavy weekend, fine. But don't come into Monday morning in a bad temper.
Yeah.
And respond to that. And my school was in a pretty urban area and in an aggressive area. And so it's really important to me and to the school that staff recognized that we had a zero tolerance of aggression, and they had to be squeaky clean.
Yeah.
It's no good talking about no aggression and then shouting. No good talking about aggression and then behaving in a way that was passive aggressive. And so the right people being in place was really important. But of course, I was deputy principal before I became the principal. I was a deputy principal for a year, and sadly, my principal suddenly died in his sleep. And so I was very inexperienced, and I was the youngest bar two on the staff. And I had I had a teacher known as the Welsh Dragon, who would put her foot through the floorboards in temper.
Tell it like a TI is, Gina.
I had a baptism of fire. I mean, we got her on side, and she became, a great support and somebody who utilized this approach, because nobody had ever said to her, "That's not acceptable." You recognize what you're modeling for other people. And I think part of it is very often the leaders, they leave it too late to say something, and they're frustrated and cross, and then they lose the moral high ground, because instead of it being said in a very neutral way, it's said in an aggressive way or a whiny way, a bit like parents nagging. So people listen to the whine, the nag, or the shout, and not what's being said.
Yeah.
Being an enlightened leader means that, yes, you do hold people to account. And I have very high standards. But I support people to develop those standards. And if they don't meet them, then they know. But they're given an opportunity to develop them. And
I
that's
love the transparency because being able to lay it out initially is so important. That's what I do as a leader. And one of my direct reports said that same thing. They said, you know what, the way that your team operates, when I'm looking at another employee treating their manager that way, they were saying, oh, Miss Nickquolette would not take that. That would not happen, because you have to make sure that you're setting those standards on those personal things, like the same thing as you. You have to dress appropriately. You have to do this because this is your brand. Telling them those things first day, so it's out there, and not having to, because it's harder to unravel that stuff down the road. And bad behavior, well, like you said, will only listen to the emotion, but not the actual words, so they can internally change themselves. And I'm thinking of a couple of people right now who are not great leaders, but who have been pacified, moved, and shifted, but not handled appropriately. And they're unfortunately given the message that it's okay to continue to operate like that. And then the direct reports are pulled back and say, I'm just going to exist because I see nothing that we as a group say actually helps. But then it goes to their friends and all this kind of stuff, but it's not going to give you the results you need if your direct reports are operating in fear or operating in just an environment that doesn't make them feel a big difference. So when I'm thinking about your program that you have, Enlightened Leadership Program, tell me, what is it about? Because when people are watching this over and over again, I want them to get a sense of the program that you're offering so they can contact you to help themselves to be able to be that genuinely and unique them in leadership.
Thank you. Most leadership programs only work on the leadership bit, the leading others. They do very little of the inner work that's required for an enlightened leader. So the program is two halves which are very much meshed. And one is all about doing the deep dive personal work.
Yes.
And so it is about you knowing yourself and being able to work with your beliefs and deal with any limiting beliefs, being able to look at the relationship you have with you and to work on that. And then the other half is about leading others. So taking radical responsibility yourself is one thing, but then how do you get other people to take radical responsibility would be the leadership side. So it's the two sides of the mirror. It's a 2-month program. And the reason for that is they say it takes 28 days to create a new neural pathway. And that's true. However, the moment there's a crisis, people go back to their old default way of being. And so what I've realized over the years is that it takes 9 to 10 months for things to become so embedded that they become how you are. So initially people will apply and they'll be asked to do a questionnaire, which makes sure, again, it's got to be a right fit. You know, this isn't for everybody. This isn't a tick box exercise. This is if you really wanted to make a fundamental difference to your life and the life of others. Then you'll get matched to a leadership facilitator. And you will work with that leadership facilitator throughout your program. You'll meet with them for about an hour and a half before you start, an hour every month, and an hour and a half at the end. And with them, you'll set up a project. And that project, you go back to that the owner of the lab. His project, if you like, was getting people to think for themselves. And it's not a one-minute wonder, it has to be a process. Then we'll enter the formal program, and that's videos, activities, PowerPoint presentations, visiting speakers. And those each month, you go onto the membership site and they're there, and you work your way through them. And then you work with your facilitator on a monthly basis to check how you're doing, what are the issues.
I like that.
Twice a month, group coaching sessions with me. And so people get the opportunity to be in the hot seat, to bring up anything that they want to, and to have some group coaching, because the inevitability is that other people will be having some of the same issues. And then the last session is that you present your project, what you've learned, and then what are you going to do with it? Because people think that's the end of the project, but actually it's the beginning. So where are you going from here? And the plan is to have masterminds and retreats and so on for people who've been through the program, because it's only just been launched, but people who go through the program get together and continue to be developed and moved with like-minded people. So it works.
I love that. And I love the fact that, right. I love the fact that you have to follow up, because I was just about to ask, when they're done, what happens next? I love the retreats. I love the fact that you do the follow up, because when you're going through a program like that, that's dealing with you as a person, and then your title just happens to be a leader, it is so much far reaching, and it's something that you want to continuously revisit. And I love the fact that you said not only do they meet with their facilitator, but they also do group coaching. And one of the things that with my IROC Inner Circle group that I have, I keep telling people, I said, when you're in there with other people, you're hearing some of the things that you probably didn't even think about that you want to discuss. And somebody else said, you know what? I didn't know how to put it that way. I have that same issue. And then it's more enriching to have more people discussing it. And then you can get an even greater sense and understanding of what it's all about. So I love that you have that, because it's not one of those programs you are set on your own, take a bunch of modules, and they're like, see ya. It's that follow through. So I love that intentionality with the actual program. I love that.
Hope that people will become leadership facilitators for others.
Yes.
Long term, I want a program for parents and one for young people. And my hope is that people who've been through the program will then act as mentors.
Yes.
So it's very much about let's together make a difference at a real level of consciousness. Let's utilize our skills, our experience, our enthusiasm to make a positive difference.
And I love it. It's all of the teachers just coming out of you. And that's what I'm loving. Teachers, if you're out there listening, look what you can do. Look at the awesomeness that you can do with your skill set. Because sometimes teachers just feel, well, I'm just a teacher. No, you help people in so many different ways. And if you just find your niche, you can do something like that to help people. And you know what? Adults like to be taught too. Learning should never stop after you get out of school. Is that correct, Gina?
For me, learning is lifelong. And I think a lot of people have the view, what can I do? I'm just somebody by myself.
Yeah.
And what I would say to them is, if you underestimate your power, because there's only you, think about spending the night in a room with a mosquito. And think about how much power that mosquito has.
And they love my blood. I get ate up all the time.
You know, they say the only way not to be bitten is to find somebody they like the taste of better. I can't find anybody.
My belly never gets bitten. I always want to get ate up.
Me too, yeah. Meals on wheels. Yeah.
Oh, that is absolutely wonderful. Okay, as we get to a close, I need to know, let me see, what is your favorite book, blog, podcast, etc., that can help my audience further with leadership? And tell me why.
Do you know, it's not directly about leadership, but it's about depression. And many people, I think we live in I think there's societal depression at the moment.
Yes.
And the book is called Lost Connections by Johan Hari. And he dispels a lot of the myths about depression and looks to start with at the research that's been done and buried, and why people are depressed and how to get out of it. And I think having a real sense of purpose, doing something that fills you up, being someone who recognizes that you are in your connection with others, that there is such richness. And I think it's a book that really made me think. I'm fortunate I don't suffer from depression, but I've worked with many people who have. And for me, it's a book that really gets to the heart of what makes us happy.
Yeah.
So, but of course, the other book that, of course, everybody could read is Thriving.
I was hoping you say that, because that's why I was kind of leading you there, Gina.
Thriving, Not Surviving, the 5 Secret Pathways to Happiness, Success and Fulfillment. They can meet me at BBS Radio. I've got a radio show there. I'm on YouTube. Come and join the Genuinely You group and Facebook, LinkedIn, or the websites, which is genuinely-u.com or enlightenedleadership.co. And I'd love to hear from them.
Yes, and I am also I'm affiliate for Gina now too. So I'll put my affiliate link in there so you all can check out that program. I highly recommend it for aspiring leaders and those who are in leadership. So please make sure you look at that, especially in this time of age. I know there's a lot of diversity and inclusion training going on, which is fine, but like Gina was talking about, it really starts internally. So I think if you work on that, then the diversity and inclusion programs are okay. I'm not a big fan of the diversity and inclusion programs. I know we have to have them, but because sometimes it's just surface stuff. But if we all work on ourselves individually, then I think we would be open-minded and diverse and inclusive. I just think I think it will naturally happen. But I know we have to have the programs and everything, and not to say the poo-poo on them, but I think it's really internal. With me being a spiritual person, I work on me so I can exude positivity outward. And then when I can do that, it's felt that I'm diverse. It's felt that I'm inclusive. It's felt that I am engaging my people. And that's what I want for everyone to be able to do that. And let me ask you another question. What is your power word and why?
It has to be enlightenment.
Yes. Yes.
And why? Because 95% of what we do is habitual. Most people are asleep. They react because that's what they've always done.
Yes.
And for me, enlightenment means that you've woken up, that you are aware of yourself as a spiritual being, that you are on a journey, that we are all connected. And I absolutely agree. If you do the work on yourself, there is no division. Yes. You know, it doesn't matter what shape, color, creed, where you come from. If you recognize in yourself that you are connected to source, whatever you happen to call source, if you recognize that you are an amazing human being, as are you, as is each person, then the diversity and the inclusion bit becomes superfluous, really, because you see the very heart of people and not the shape or the color or the packaging.
Exactly. And I truly believe that. And again, I know diversity and inclusion is huge right now with the different programs.
And again, I'm not belittling it.
Yes, I know. And me either. And that's what I want to make sure people understand. I'm not either, but I do believe it's all innate. When we do work and enlighten ourselves, I believe all of that will work itself out. I just believe that. I believe that in my heart of heart, because I have people of all different types of backgrounds, and I feel their hearts, and I know where their hearts are, and I don't worry about whether or not I'm feeling not included or what have you, because I know their hearts. And so when Dr. King talks about the character of a person, let's look at that. And when we're enlightened and we become woke, I love that you said that, become woke, we can spew out all of this engagement, love, respect, without having to be shuffled through a program. You know what I mean? And I think it starts with us. If we start individually, it starts with us. Let me see who out there giving us some comments. We had Anita said, hi. Hi, Nairobi. Nairobi is she's always on here with us. I love it. And Nairobi, I wanted to be a professor, so I love that. And here's Tammy. Tammy is my speaker assistant. She helps me with my speaking engagements. And Miss, wow, hey girl. So we're all saying hi. And so I'm so excited to have had you on. And do you have a last parting verse before we conclude this interview?
I would say to people, you're the common denominator that you take with you every moment of your life, from the moment you're born until you die. So doesn't it make sense to make the best of you, to invest in you? Because ultimately, not only does that make a difference in your life, but just imagine throwing a stone into a pond. How you are, how you operate, how you turn up is like rippling out to all of the people you have contact with. So I would say to you, give yourself the gift of developing you. And if I can help, I'd be only happy to.
Yeah. And give yourself the grace as well, because sometimes my peers who are not African American, they are afraid. If you make a mistake, that's okay. Give yourself grace, because we're all learning, we're all growing, and we're all trying to be better. Just give yourself grace. It'll be okay. Oh, I'm just so wonderful.
Embrace failure. It's an opportunity to learn.
Yes.
We don't learn right, do we?
It's okay. Don't hide. If you fall down, just get back up. Just like those little things that you hit, and it just keeps going back and forth. Just do the same thing, and
Just
it's okay.
Toddlers.
Yes,
babies learning to walk. They don't. Yes. My bum look big in a nappy. They don't care if they fall over. They just want to walk, and they get up and they smile and they laugh and they keep doing it.
I was about to say, they just giggle, say, "Yep, I'm gonna do it again."
We've got a lot to learn from babies.
Right. Well, thank you, Gina, for being with us. My audience, thank you all so much for tuning in at a different hour than normal. Again, Gina is all the way from London, England, so we had to adjust. What time is it there, Gina?
It's now 5 to 7 in the evening.
Oh, wow. So it's almost 7 o'clock there. And I look forward to actually getting there. And I'm definitely going to be looking you up. We're going to be connected anyway. I love this. Thank you so much
forward to that.
Sharing your truth, sharing your take on leadership and what leadership means to you. This is really going to set the tone for the whole entire month as I talk about building the leader in my audience, because it goes beyond just the title, because you can be a leader internally at a different level, all kinds of things that we're going to be tackling this month. So I really appreciate you setting the tone. And next week's topic, everyone, is Leadership 101, tips to even help you launch into leadership. And we'll talk from a perspective of making sure that you're not getting into it just for, some people get into it for a title sake and for a pay, but it's something that you truly want to be a part of, because I've seen it on both ends. People get in and they're like, you know what, this is not for me, and I have to back out. And I applaud them for having that courage to be able to step out of it when it's not for them. So we're going to talk about different things so you can think about how you want to get into leadership and if that's something you truly want to do, and being enlightened. And for those of you all who are just joining and you didn't see the whole interview, please go back and watch it and share with others and put hashtag replay in there to let me know that you have listened to it, because it is going to be very powerful. As somebody else, hey Marva, hey, thanks for joining. I got a lot of my LinkedIn people on today, and I do appreciate you all, joining me every single week, because it gives me great pleasure to be able to bring this information to you all, because this is all about the job search and career management show. It's not just about giving you resume tips and interview tips and LinkedIn tips. It's about what do you do when you get the role, and it's about how do you manage your career, and being able to be in leadership and managing as a leader is very important as well. So when I took my show from being just career musings and I broadened it, I wanted to touch on other topics to make sure I have powerful guests just like Gina to come on and share what she has learned over her career to help you be a better employee, a better direct report, a better leader in your career, and continue to move forward. And I thank you all so much. And again, thank you, Gina. Give us love and hearts and all that kind of good stuff to let us know that you've enjoyed the show. And I will be having Gina back soon, and we're going to dive deeper into some of your books, okay, Gina? So I'll have you back in a couple of months so we can talk again, because this is a very important topic, and the work that you're doing is just mind-blowing to me. And I'm so glad to be able to partner with you to bring your program to people so that they can take a deeper dive, because it's very important, especially new leaders, to jump on something like this right away. And I appreciate you so much. Thank you all. Thank you so much for joining, everybody. Thank you, Gina. Bye-bye.
That was